Welcome into the Behind the Wall post-game show, sponsored by Campus Steaks. Check them out, Downtown State College on Pew Street. It is a Philly thing. It is the Penn State post-game show, guys. It feels good after that victory against Kent State. I feel like Penn State fans as a whole were a little bit worried, especially going into halftime. I think we were up 35-0 at halftime, but it felt like Penn State fans were not very satisfied, at least on the Twitter sphere, with the performance up to halftime. But I mean, I'll tell you, just looking at the stat sheet going down, we have, Drew Aller went for 309 yards, 3 touchdowns. He averaged 4.7 yards, 14.7 yards per pass. We passed for a total of 409 yards. And then on the ground, I mean, everybody got carries, from Liam Clifford having a carry to Quentin Martin, Drew Aller, Nick Singleton going for 81 yards. Katron and Nick Singleton both had 11 carries. Katron went for 66 yards. Nick Singleton went for 81 yards. And continuing the trend of high average yards per carry, Katron had 6 yards per carry. Nick Singleton was 7.4 yards per carry. The biggest thing for me was seeing the wide receivers get involved. And you look at the end of the day, there was 8 receivers with a catch. Going into halftime, there was 6 receivers with a catch. So I like seeing that. And those 6 guys, every single person had 2 or more catches. So, I mean, this is Andy Kotelnicki and Drew Aller getting the guys involved and starting to kind of spread it around a little bit. If you are in my YouTube live, go ahead and leave any questions below. We are taking live Q&A as well. So hit me on my Twitter at Landon Tangwall, but we are also live on my YouTube at Behind the Wall with Landon Tangwall. And we are talking Penn State football post-game. Just a quick update. Michigan handled USC at home. I think that was kind of a surprise for a lot of people. It was a surprise for me. I didn't think that was going to happen. I'm going to be honest. I thought USC was going to go into Michigan and kind of handle Michigan just how Texas did a couple weeks ago, but it really wasn't that way. It was a battle the entire game, and it was close at the end, but Michigan took it home. But getting back to Penn State as a whole, I mean, I think early on there was definitely some worry. I don't think 7 points in the first 10 minutes, that type of thing, that obviously hurts, because you look back to Tennessee last week when Tennessee played Kent State. Tennessee forced Kent State into 2 fumbles on both of their first 2 drives, one resulting in a safety. And I think Tennessee put up, 40-plus points in the first quarter. So obviously we didn't get that from Penn State. And I think that panicked some fans, especially because probably me and other people were hyping Penn State going into it, saying, hey, they should completely dominate this team and handle business. Well, not necessarily. Shout out to the class of 24. They showed up, Lawn Boys. Congratulations, Cam and Q, for major first. Yeah, we definitely had some young guys step up, and going against a lower level team, it's exciting to see some young guys get involved. Quentin Martin had 7 carries on the day. Cam Wallace had 9 carries, had to get helped off towards the end. But the one thing that kind of seems like a constant at this point is Amari Evans in this deep ball. And that is something that up to this point previously with Mike Yursich, it didn't feel like that was an emphasis to stretch the field. And, you have a speedy guy in Amari Evans. He's probably the fastest wide receiver on the team. And so you start to take shots down the field. It stretches the defense. It makes them have to respect you down the field. Well, when you're not doing that and you're just throwing at the sticks, meaning you're throwing at the first down marker or closer, and you're being very conservative, the defense doesn't have to respect that. They can put guys in the box. Amari Evans today, 4 receptions, 116 yards, and a touchdown. I love seeing that from him, because he's just continuing to progress and kind of just become a better wide receiver. Also, Luke Reynolds at the end, I love that catch. If you were watching live, I mean, Luke Reynolds, he was on a little bit of a seam route. He had someone pretty much stuck to him. He climbed the ladder, went up top, caught a ball, and basically fell on his head and held on to the ball. I am really excited about the opportunity he kind of presents at tight end. And, Andrew Rapplier did have to step out for the season. Coach Franklin says it is, seems like a long-term injury. So they give Luke Reynolds the green light, meaning that he is going to burn his red shirt as a true freshman. He's going to play more than 4 games. And I think what we saw from Luke Reynolds today as a receiver and a blocker definitely gets me excited. I mean, this is a low-level team with Kent State, But at the same time, I am definitely a fan of what I'm seeing with Andy Kotelnicki, Drew Aller, Bo Prabula, all of that, spreading the ball around. We're going to answer a couple questions from the chat. Do you think passes Aller threw, particularly the lofty ones, would be picked off by a better defense? I definitely think there needs to be improvement headed into next week against Illinois. Illinois just played a really good Nebraska team at Lincoln, Nebraska, and took home the victory. And I watched them. A lot of people watched them last night. It was the best game on. And it felt like when you watched it, it was like, oh no, Penn State has a really good, well-coached team coming to town next week. So I think that's why people were panicking a little bit early on when you see Penn State offense particularly struggling. And it's like, okay, we can't come out and struggle against Nebraska. They were slinging it around. They had their quarterback had a really good day through the air, and they look like a true contender in the Big Ten coming to town next week. So I do think there needs to be a little bit of a tune-up from this offense heading into next week. And I guess the little bit of the worrisome headed into next week is that, hey, Penn State had a bye week to recover headed into this game. It didn't feel like it was dominant right off the bat. But, I mean, I'll just give you guys some of these stats off the front. 66 total yards for Kent State. I mean, Penn State on paper dominated. I know it feels like at the beginning you were watching it, said, hey, it's getting off to a little bit of a slow start. But, I mean, they had 18 yards passing, and that started off with the first play, which people haven't talked about enough up to this point, is Denai Dennis Sutton gets around the corner, gets kind of a strip sack. Kobe King gets lit up. Their quarterback is out for the rest of the game, has to get carted off. It was a crazy sequence. I think it was the second play of the game, and kind of set the tone for the game where we took their quarterback out. Then they had their second string come in. He got injured as well. They bring in their third string quarterback. So it was really a comedy of errors for Kent State, which coming into this game, a lot of people said, hey, there is 134 FBS programs in the United States. They are probably 134 out of 134. And, that is really how bad they were. And up to this point, I mean, Penn State pretty much did what they were supposed to do. I'm going to be honest. Tennessee had 450 yards rushing against this team, not as much through the air. And, we did similar, 309 on the ground, 409 through the air. So, I mean, Penn State is putting up 718 yards of offense. That gets me excited. This is very similar. Think back to Idaho in 2019. I know that was a really good year for Penn State winning the Cotton Bowl. That is kind of the level of the team we played here. This is about as low level as it gets. We're going to answer another question from the YouTube live stream. I am Landon Tangwall, former Penn State offensive lineman, coming to you live right now. Check me out if you are listening on radio and you want to listen on YouTube. I am at Behind the Wall with Landon Tangwall. So you can also check me out on Twitter at Landon Tangwall. James said, how about that defensive player for Kent State that achieved the full scorpion? Yeah, it was, there was some nutty stuff that happened in that game. When you play like lower level, there's some crazy stuff that happens. It's like, how much do you think Kent State's QB1 and QB being injured in essentially back-to-back drives affected the outcome? I mean, I'm going to be honest, probably not that much. This Kent State team, like I said, was really lackluster. They rushed for 49 yards. They ran the ball 30 times, rushed for 49 yards. They averaged 1.6 yards per carry. And that's what you want to see from this Penn State defense. And I think coming into the game, I mean, there's definitely a little bit of worry with KJ Winston being out for an extended period of time. We don't know if he's going to come back this year, but there was a lot of playing time for young Dejon Lane, who was a freshman coming into this year, and someone that I'm excited to see continue to play. Coach Franklin, coming into the year, Coach Franklin sits down as the freshman, and you either get green-lit, yellow-lit, or red-lit. And that means that if you're red, you're going to be on the practice squad. You are kind of the practice dummy for the rest of the year. You can chalk it up. You're probably not making your way onto the active, playing field. Now, if you're yellow, you're kind of on and off. You might be with the first or second team offense or defense, but you also might be with the practice squad. But if you are greenlit, that means, hey, we are burning your red shirt. That means you're going to play more than 4 games, because back in the day, if you played even 1 snap as a freshman, you burned your red shirt. Well, they changed it a couple years back where now you can play up to 4 games, and then as well as the playoffs do not count now. So there's an opportunity for young guys to play a lot, but at the same time, it definitely has changed over time. So let's continue to get back into these Penn State stats a little bit and talk about what happened. I mean, Drew Aller, he was 17 for 21, 309, and 3 touchdowns to the air. And that was pretty much done at halftime. That's what I like to see. It looks good. It took a little bit to get going for this Penn State offense, but once they got humming, they looked like how they were supposed to look. I will say I wish there was a little bit more of an explosive run dynamic to this team. The longest run of the day was from Nick Singleton. It was 18 yards. But you going down the list, everybody almost has an explosive run. Talking about Nick Singleton, his long was 18 yards. Katron Allen, 13 yards. Bo Prabula, his long was 14 yards. Cam Wallace, 13 yards. So I go down the list. Tyler Warren had a rush for 16 yards. So Andy Kotelnicki is continuing to get his guys involved in different ways. And those touchdowns to Khalil Dinkins, to Tyler Warren, it was the same play over and over, which was they were faking power. And what power is when you pull and every time it was the right guard, they'd pull the right guard or the center, and it would fake the linebackers. And that pulls the linebackers in. When you start to do things like pulling offensive guards, pulls the linebackers in, and the tight ends were slipping right up the seam. Tyler Warren once, and then Khalil Dinkins for another touchdown, and they were able to slip it in. One was from Drew Aller, one was from Bo Prabula. And so you just kind of see Kotelnicki is not afraid to return to what is working. And it's the classic saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I like what I'm seeing from Andy Kotelnicki. As much as we have probably played inferior defenses up to this point, I still think that Andy Kotelnicki is showcasing his ability to be creative on offense and allow Drew Aller to play loose and play. He is having fun throwing the ball again. It's fun to see. I'm excited to get into Illinois next week and really dive into some of these logistics and the defense that we're going to see, because I think that is going to be the best defense that we have seen up to this point. We're going to answer another question from the YouTube Live. Once again, check us out at Landon Tangwall on YouTube. Will the lack of turnovers / interceptions from today is something to worry about? Not necessarily. I do think you want to see a little bit more turnovers from your defense against a team that is this bad. Like I said, I think they're 134 out of 134 in the FBS, meaning that they are a really low-level team. And it definitely hurts a little bit to see that especially with KJ Winston gone, it feels like, hey, we're starting to lose a couple pieces. But I mean, you saw Abdul, you saw Denai start to be a little disruptive. Now these are probably the worst tackles you are going to go against if you're Abdul or Denai up to this point. But you saw them start to get going. We're starting to get some stuff going in the defensive stat category. But at the same time, you're going to have to get some turnovers when you play USC, when you play Illinois next week, when you have Ohio State come to town. You're going to have to create some turnovers and give Drew Aller and company some really good field position where they can at least, get a couple field goals, that type of thing, and get those points where they don't necessarily have to drive from their own 25-yard line. We are continuing to answer questions here from my YouTube Live. Do we have Singleton for another year? I don't think so. I think we have Katron Allen for another year. I'm going to be honest. I think Nick Singleton is too explosive and too much of a threat in the receiving game and the rushing game, and Andy Kotelnicki is proving that. I think he's going to start to hear some really good things from scouts and NFL teams, and he'll probably move on. But then it could be the Katron Allen show with Cam Wallace kind of becoming that lightning, and Katron Allen is the thunder. Continuing to answer questions here on YouTube. She says, does he have another year of eligibility? I don't see him sticking around. Yeah, I agree. I don't think Nick Singleton will be around here next year, and good for him because he is really doing his thing up to this point. Andy Kotelnicki, I'm sure Nick Singleton is thankful for him because he is getting him involved in a multitude of ways. Are slow starts a team chemistry thing or dumb luck? I know the opponent has something to do with it. I think that's it's different every time, and I think it's not necessarily a lack of preparedness or a lack of team chemistry, but sometimes offenses particularly take a little bit to get going. But I think once you saw it get going, it looked good. Now, this defense, let's say against Kent State that we were going against, was pretty bad. This is like a scrimmaging, like like the freshman team. Like that's kind of what it looked like. I wish we could have been a little bit more dominant on the run game. Now, I say that we rushed for 309 yards, and I did put out before the game, up to this point in the Singleton, Katron Allen era, we have only rushed for over 300 yards one time, and I said I think today will be the second time. I said that pregame, and sure enough, they did rush for 309 yards. So, I'm not going to fault them. They're doing a good job. but I wish we could have been even a little bit more dominant. And that's probably me being a little bit of a perfectionist and wanting a lot from our team and knowing the environment we're heading into next week, where we have a top 20 team in Illinois coming to town that just upset Nebraska at home. And, they're bringing a lot. Altmar, their quarterback, was throwing some lasers. They come out hot. They did not look like they were intimidated by Nebraska at all. But we are going to continue to talk a little bit more Penn State, Kent State when we come back. And I want to get into a couple of the more depth pieces that we saw, and we'll answer some more questions from the chat. But we will be right back after this short break. If I can get this. There we go. Thanks, guys. Be back in 1 minute.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going. 98.7 The Fox.
Welcome back into the Behind the Wall post-game show. I am your host, Landon Tangwall, and we are breaking down this Penn State, Kent State game. Also taking questions in the comments. So if you were on radio, go to @Behind the Wall with Landon Tangwall on YouTube and check us out. Let's take a break for a second from talking Kent State, Penn State. I want to talk about this USC versus Michigan again, and Michigan was ranked 18th. USC was ranked 11th, and Michigan won 27-24. Something I was just looking at the stats. A couple things. Let's talk about passing real quick. USC with Miller Moss passed the ball 51 times for 283 yards and 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. While on the flip side, Michigan with Alex Orji passed the ball 12 times, 7 completions for 32 yards. So Michigan was really struggling through the passing attempts, but they rushed for 290 yards, headlined by Khalil Mullings with 159 yards and 9.4 yards per carry. So something to keep an eye on. We do have Penn State at USC in a couple weeks. We have a little bit more of a home stretch heading into that. So let's get back to these comments again. Who do you think is emerging as a leader on defense right now? Well, obviously KJ Winston is out for an extended period of time. And we just saw some reports. Dom DeLuca was on the sideline with a cast. So there's obviously some injuries going on this defense. Now, there are some people that are going to have to step up. And it looked like today, I mean, Abdul and Deny, it is going to be important for this pass rush to be potent against teams like USC, Wisconsin, next week against Illinois, Ohio State. We have some guys that are coming to town with some really good offenses, and we are going to have to rush the passer because if we are starting to lack a little bit in the linebacker department, the safety department, having guys injured, as much as there's been a lot of props given to Dejon Lane, who was a young freshman filling in for KJ Winston and someone that saw a ton of snaps today. You also need to make up for that on the back end. There's just because he is a freshman, he is going to MA, meaning that he is going to have missed assignments. He is going to do things that KJ Winston is not, KJ Winston was able to do that Dejon Lane cannot do because he is a young guy. He has not had the experience of playing in games, in real games up to this point. So, I think it was a good start to get him in against kind of a lackluster Kent State. But I think up to, you need to see Kobe King, Tony Rojas really start to step up in that linebacking core. We don't know how long Dom DeLuca's down for. Tyrese Mills was someone that came in the game for Dom DeLuca and played a lot. I think we have seen him start to progress. He's someone that had an injury early on in his career, but he's started, continued to look good, gotten bigger, and someone that kind of plays that Sam/nickel cornerback role where he is not necessarily a big linebacker, but he can also was playing a little bit at safety position. James asked in the YouTube comment section, why didn't we see Grunk tonight? I don't know the answer to that. I think they wanted to get Bo Pabula a lot of reps. And I'm not all the way against it, but I would have liked to see Grunkmeyer. And I want to see Grunkmeyer throw the ball a little bit. I'd like to see him throw in game. If you're on Twitter at all, his trainer, Brad Mendler, who was also Drew Aller's trainer, they were training with Trace McSorley and they post videos. And I've seen Ethan Grunkmeyer throw the ball next, side by side with Drew Aller and Trace McSorley. The ball jumps out of his hand more so than either of those guys. And we're talking about an NFL player and a top 5, probably college quarterback. So I'm excited to see Ethan Grunkmeyer. I don't know why we weren't able to see him against this Kent State team. I think this was a really good time to play him. We are now headed into Big Ten play against Illinois. I don't really know how much more time there is to play. There's always that possible blowout against Maryland. Shout out Maryland. I hate them forever. As do most fans. The slogan is unrivaled, but I feel like if there's a rivalry, it's just beating up Maryland. I think that's one thing that Penn State fans love. Anyone else? I don't know. They entered a lot of blackout blind rage when they said it. I was surprised after the targeting call. Yeah, I think it was interesting. And the biggest thing with these games is you want to get out of there without any big injuries. And I think for the most part, Penn State did a good job of that. Like I said, I know there was an injury to Dom DeLuca. I am not sure who else is injured right now. We'll get a report on that soon. But overall, I think Penn State did a good job of getting out today, mostly healthy, and getting guys involved in the run game, in the pass game, and then obviously playing a lot of guys. And that is one thing that Coach Franklin has a big emphasis on, especially in these games against lower-level teams, is getting young guys in and building depth. Because you never know when you get to a point where you're deep in the season and you got to rely on a freshman, a.k.a. Dejon Lane, with KJ Winston going down. You got Andrew Rapplier goes down. Now you got to rely on Luke Reynolds. So it's happening earlier in the season for Penn State right now, but that is something that happens normally later in the season, and you got to figure out, okay, who can I rely on these as far as these young guys? And you start to kind of find that out. So no, I don't know the condition with Cam Wallace. Looks like he got a little banged up, but it looked like maybe Quinn Martin might be the third running back moving forward. We will see with that. Now, we got to talk about Tyler Warren, who had a great day. He had a passing touchdown, had a nice receiving touchdown, and really just continues to be, in my opinion, one of the best all-around tight ends in college football. 5 receptions, 50 yards, averaging 10 yards per catch. And I think him coming back, the importance of that can't be overstated, because without Tyler Warren, I don't think Drew Aller has his safety blanket. I don't think Drew Aller has this guy. I mean, you saw that one-handed catch by Tyler Warren. That should be on the poster board for the Mackey Award, which is the best tight end in all of college football. That is something that Tyler Warren will definitely be in the running for, and was really, really close to a third touchdown in the flat. Drew Aller just missed him by a hair. But continuing to see him step up has been exciting for me. Wow, man, we got some good games going on right now. It looks like Utah, Oklahoma State is over, and Utah took the victory just by 3 points, 22-19. Utah took that victory. So most of the games are done for the day, the big ones. Like I said, the biggest thing was Michigan, USC at Michigan. And surprising, like I said, I really did think that USC was going to come in there and establish themselves. But maybe, they played at LSU and they had a lot of us fooled thinking that they were big time contenders. They went to Michigan and Michigan ran the ball all over USC. So I think there's even a bigger importance for Penn State to continue to establish this run, especially heading into a week where you're playing Illinois, where this is the best defense you have seen up to this point. Establish the run, continue to get the wide receivers involved. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, they got 6 receivers the ball in the first half, and all 6 guys had over 2 receptions. So that is how Andy Kotelnicki is continuing to get his guys the ball. And Julian Fleming getting involved on a couple deeper balls. Liam Clifford with his first touchdown of his career. I'm loving what I'm seeing. Now, obviously, like I said, this is pretty much scrimmaging a JV high school team. No offense to Kent State. I mean, they are a decent team. Not really. I kind of lied there. They're not that good at all. But they tried. They definitely tried. I mean, we're talking 18 yards through the air for Kent State. They're on their 3rd string quarterback. I don't know what else you can really get take away from this game. I don't know really if there's a lot of lessons to take away for Penn State. I mean, like I said, this is the worst team in the FBS. There's 134 teams. I think Kent State's 134. So I don't really know how much you're able to draw from Kent State. And I guess my biggest thing is, hey, we need to come out hot against Illinois. We can't be in Beaver Stadium 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m., and come out flat the first 2 quarters. Now, we started to get going just because we are a lot better than Kent State. I mean, the talent gap there's 5, 6, 7 guys on the Penn State defense going to the NFL next year. Kent State probably has none. So there was obviously that talent gap. So it started to show. But for a while there, it was like, hey, this Penn State offense is really struggling to get going. And I think just because of what Tennessee did to Kent State last week, there was this expectation that Penn State was going to go insane from the first quarter, because I think Tennessee put up close to 40 points in the first quarter. They put up 65 by halftime. We are going to return to answer some more questions from the YouTube Live. If you are listening to the radio, check me out on YouTube Live at Behind the Wall with Landon Tangwall. Comment your questions and we will get right to it. How does our run production match up to this time last year? It's definitely a little bit better. West Virginia last year was a little bit more of a throwing match. We ran for about 150 in that realm. And up to this point, this year, we have ran for 200 yards in both games. So, and now 300 yards in the third game. So the running game is getting more and more consistent, but it still feels like there's times where we want to rely on the run game and it stalls out, where we run first and second down and we get stalled out. Now it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and you are behind the sticks. So I think there still needs to be some consistency in the run game. And there's no better test than Illinois. I mean, next week, they are really stout up front. That is a team that we saw get after Dylan Raiola. He was really under duress all night last night. So they ran stunts. They ran the games. So they were, picking linemen and looping around and getting after Dylan Raiola, causing him some stress. So I'm curious to see, especially with a young offensive line with Penn State, how we are going to handle that and how Andy Kotelnicki plans to scheme that up. The biggest thing with Illinois next week, and something I want to talk about, is that they're not the whiteout. And we picked Washington, and Washington lost recently to Washington State in the Apple Cup. Washington State's not a very good team. So it's clear that the Washington we're playing in November is not very good. So we scheduled, a November whiteout that's probably at 3:30 against a not very good Big Ten team. Now we got Illinois coming to town next week. It's 7 or 7:30. And we could have made that the whiteout. Now, I know hindsight is 2020, and you're looking back, and if we would have called Illinois the whiteout, back in July, I think fans would have been upset, saying, hey, that's not a very good whiteout. So hindsight is 2020 for Penn State fans. But I've heard the idea of making this a fan-made whiteout. I'm curious your guys' idea on that and your opinion. Do you think the fans could get that done where they kind of organize their own whiteout? But from an administrative standpoint, I don't think it's possible to switch it over. There's just too many things. They probably have all the white shakers ordered, the white shirts, whatever they want to give out, and it's all set up for that game. My man R. Graw says in the comments, I'm wearing white. I think fans should do it. Show up next week, wear as much white as possible. Let's cause a little bit of our own whiteout. I'm excited to see that. That should be kind of fun. I think early on, Penn State's detriment was trying to be a little too cute. Thinking back to putting Bo Prabula in for his first play, and they fake a jet sweep. So they brought one of the running backs on a jet sweep across, didn't do that, and then they kind of pitched to Tyler Warren on a tight end screen. And Bo Prabula threw a little bit of a lobby pass, and the Kent State defender picked it off. Now, I think that is where you need to be careful heading into these bigger games against Illinois and USC in the coming weeks. You don't need to get cute at the beginning. Rely on the run game. You just rushed for 309 yards, and as I mentioned, that's only the second time in Katron Allen, Nick Singleton era that Penn State has rushed for over 300 yards. So you're starting to get that going. Tyler Warren is clearly the best tight end in all of college football. So rely on those things early on. We know that Andy Kotelnicki loves his Tyler Warren in the flat. You've seen it a million times where Drew Aller has a read option with the running back, and he pulls it, and then he hits Tyler Warren in the flat and then Tyler will sometimes turn it into a 20-yard gain. So, continuing to get the players the ball in space and allow them to make plays. That is Andy Kotelnicki's, that's his motto, is get the guys the ball in space and, give them opportunities too. We've seen a couple plays today where Drew Aller and company gave the receiver the ability to say, hey, go up and make the play. And, they did it obviously against a lesser Kent State team. Now we have Illinois coming to town. I'm really excited to see what they present as far as from really a defensive standpoint. I mean, and then their offense was humming. They have a running back that is 6'3", 250 pounds. So there better be some tackling drills this week for the Penn State team out at the last football building, because they're going to have to bring it. And like I said, Illinois has some confidence. You go into Lincoln, Nebraska, and they have a red out, and you basically handle them. Okay, I'm coming into Penn State feeling the same way. Like, I'm going to do the same thing. So Penn State better come ready to go, because this Illinois team is a really well-coached team that I think is going to come with a plan similar to Bowling Green, but obviously just a lot better of a team, and they're going to try to execute. Another question from my YouTube Live. If you're listening, check me out at Behind the Wall with Landon Tangwall. Do you think they're still experimenting on who the number one wide receiver is? I don't think necessarily there's an experiment. I think they're trying to get the ball around as much as possible. Trey Wallace, who is thought to be the number one guy, had 3 receptions for 29 yards today, but they really spread it around. I mean, they had 10 receivers with a catch, whether that be tight end, wide receiver, running back. I did like to see Tyseer Denmark get involved. He got 1 catch towards the end, and he looked like he was running some pretty crispy routes. He has a lot of talent when he is out there route running, not necessarily a burner, but I think Amari Evans being the guy that can take the top off is almost more important than developing a number one wide receiver. I think Trey Wallace is that guy, and we will continue to see him shine in bigger games when we need him. But having a guy in Amari Evans that can take the top off a defense and stretch a defense is more important. And that is what we didn't see last year with this Penn State offense. They weren't taking shots downfield. And when you do not take shots downfield, the defense doesn't worry as much about you trying to do that. So they will bring the safeties into the box. They start to crowd the box. And instead of having 6 or 7 guys inside the box, now you have 8, 7 or 8. And what that does, it's hard to run the ball. It's really difficult. So if you are constantly throwing short, running the ball, and the defense knows that, and that's how defenses perceived Penn State last year, it starts to get really, really hard to move the ball. And that's what you saw with Penn State. We really only moved the ball against inferior opponents because we were just better than them. It wasn't the scheme. It was more just the talent of Penn State. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from Andy Kotelnicki. Obviously, Tom Allen with the shutout today. The shutout does mean donuts for the defense on normally on Sunday or Monday. So that is kind of the fun part. We had a lot of shutouts when I was on the team. And so everybody kind of gets to enjoy in the donuts but kind of to be expected for this Kent State team. I don't think this is a team that should have scored any points. Someone in the comments section said Illinois' coach isn't afraid to get cute and pull out all the stops. Yeah, I agree. Illinois is not going to come in frayed, and they're not going to come in and hold anything back. We saw them. I mean, they didn't hold anything back against Nebraska. They had a couple kind of trickery plays, and they relied on their bread and butter. They were throwing to the flats a lot. They were really just wreaking havoc on that Nebraska defense and giving them hell. It was fun to watch. So, I mean, it's going to be a battle against Illinois next Saturday night in Beaver Stadium. So the Penn State fans, you're going to have to come loud. This show is sponsored by Campus Steaks. Go check them out, downtown State College on Pew Street. We have signings every Sunday morning. So tomorrow morning, we have Riley Thompson. He's signing his player memorabilia cup. And what that is, we've teamed up with Campus Steaks to do a player for every home game. Think back to Michael Jordan, Barry Bonds, those type of guys on those memorabilia cups, and you got to collect them, maybe get them signed. Well, here's your opportunity to do that, but with Penn State football players. They are a fantastic gift. We had Dom DeLuca with the first home game. Now we have Riley Thompson. Bo Prabula is next week. But Riley Thompson will be at Campus Steaks tomorrow morning from 10 to 11 a.m. signing his cup. So if you are still in town, stop by. If you are not in town and you're listening and you want the cup, you can order it signed on the student bookstore. You can buy it in person at the student bookstore or at Campus Steaks. We're going to take a quick break, and I will be right back. We're going to talk a little bit more Penn State, Kent State right after this break.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox.
Welcome back into the Behind the Wall post-game show. We are recapping Penn State, Kent State. The Nittany Lions handled the Kent State Golden Flashes 56-0 at Beaver Stadium today, Saturday. We avoided some really nasty weather, which was nice. I think that was good for the fans. Enjoy the rest of the tailgates. But man, Penn State, I mean, it feels like a good day walking away from this game. I think you know, it's hard because you played one of the worst teams in all of FBS college football. But at the same time, you put up 56 points and you pitch a shutout you have to feel good with yourself walking away. Anytime you hold a team to less than 70 total yards, that is a good day. I don't care who you are. So let's talk about a couple things that happened. Kent State got down to their third quarterback. That was almost impressively bad, where we continued to hurt their their second string quarterbacks. So that was kind of fun to watch them try to work around that and use their third string quarterback. I can't imagine sitting in his shoes. Imagine being a third string quarterback for, like I said, a really lower level team in Kent State, and you basically have to come in at Beaver Stadium, which they said the attendance today was 109,000. You have to come in as the third string quarterback for the worst team in FBS college football and try to help out your team to beat Penn State. That is not an easy task. Couple of things I want to talk about. As far as Andy Kotelnicki's offense, he loves this fake power. And what that is when you run power offense, that means you pull the backside guard. So if you're running power to the left, you hand the ball off to the running back, you pull the right guard, and he kicks out that left defensive end. So what Andy Kotelnicki does is he pulls that guard, and it gets the linebackers to come down. They get sucked into the line of scrimmage because they're thinking, hey, it is a run. Well, no, it's not. It's a pass. And that is what you saw on both touchdowns to Tyler Warren and Khalil Dinkins. They faked the power run. They pulled a lineman, and the linebackers came up. Tyler Warren, Khalil Dinkins, both slipped behind the linebackers and caught a nice touchdown pass up the seam. So I really like what Andy Kotelnicki has done up to this point with this offense, continuing to be creative. And I've talked about Andy Kotelnicki a lot up to this point. I mean, I got to give some props to Tom Allen. And, last week, 2 weeks ago, before the bye week, there was a lot of people that weren't really happy with Tom Allen and the performance of the defense. Now, going into halftime, they let up a lot of points to that Bowling Green team, which I'm excited to see Bowling Green play Texas A&M. I think the game is live right now, or it's coming up. But we'll see how good this Bowling Green team really is. I think they are good. That's a veteran team with over 30 seniors, a sixth-year quarterback, and a good offensive coordinator. But we will continue to kind of monitor how they do other Penn State opponents. But Tom Allen is someone that, like I said, had a bad first half. But going into the second half, he only allowed 3 points against Bowling Green. He had 2 turnovers, less than 100 yards of total offense for Bowling Green in the second half. He shut them down. Then he comes out and pitches a shutout. So I definitely think he deserves some love. Now, one thing that I am a little bit worried about is the sack total. Now, we only had 2 sacks today. And last week, didn't really have any. And it's starting to get to a point where it's like, okay, we had Adisa Isaac and Chop Robinson leave for the draft, and we get that. But we felt so confident in the fact that we had Abdul Carter coming down from the linebacker position to play defensive end, and deny Dennis Sutton stepping into his third year, where it's like, okay, this is a year for him to have an NFL first round type of year. And up to the point on the stat sheet, it hasn't really felt that way, that we have a dominant pass rush as we did last year. There was games where players took over. Chop Robinson against Rutgers, it was a little bit close, forced a fumble. Penn State picked it up, recovered, and that kind of turned the tide of the game. So, I think not feeling that very big time confidence in our pass rush is kind of unique to Penn State fans, because the pass rush has been so good for so long. I don't necessarily think it's bad. Up to this point, coming into this game, I mean, Kent State's average time before pass was under 2.5 seconds, meaning that they were throwing the ball every snap before 2.5 seconds. It's not very easy to get to the quarterback as a defensive lineman, Abdul Carter, deny Dennis Sutton, or if you're inside with Zane Durant, who had a really, really nice pressure early on in the game. It's not easy to get to the quarterback in under 2.5 seconds. So there is a clear emphasis from these teams that they're playing to say, hey, we are not going to let the Penn State defensive line disrupt our offense. We're going to get the ball out within whatever it is, 2.5 seconds, 2 seconds. And you saw that Coach Franklin said that after the game against Bowling Green. Hey, they came in with a clear mission. They wanted to get the ball out. They were not going to let Abdul and Deny disrupt the game. And that's kind of what the Kent State Golden Flashes did today. But the 2 sacks, one of them came from Deny Dennis Sutton at the beginning, the other one from Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter had 1.5 TFLs. Dennis Sutton also had a TFL. So we continue to see these guys starting to progress. We're starting to see them in the stat sheets. But the big test is playing against a more veteran, older offensive line next week against Illinois. Now let's talk about some fun stuff that happened. Liam Clifford scored a touchdown, and then if you didn't catch it, you got to look it up. After he scored the touchdown, him and Julian Fleming did what looked like a beer chug celebration where they smashed a beer on their helmet and then pretend to chug a beer. So, I love it. I don't know if you get in trouble for that. I don't really know how that works. But good celebration for the boys, man. I'm excited for them. Guys getting involved. And that's a good feeling when you get to play a little bit of a lower level team. And up to this point, you haven't been able to get enough guys involved. And there was a couple of graphics on the screen where it was the first 2 weeks total that Liam Clifford and Julian Fleming had 1 reception for 3 yards. And that was just Julian Fleming against Bowling Green. Now guys are getting involved. And just to give you the stat line today, Liam Clifford had 3 receptions for 64 yards and a touchdown, averaging 21 yards per catch. Julian Fleming, 2 receptions for 60 yards, 30 yards per catch. And then Amari Evans topping off the wide receivers for 4 receptions, 116 yards and a touchdown. So I like to see us continuing to spread it around to our playmakers. And we will talk a little bit more of Penn State, Kent State football, and a little bit around college football. Utah at Oklahoma State just ended recently. That is number 12 at number 14. Utah took it 22-19. We'll be back in just a minute with a couple more updates. Please, if you have any questions from the Penn State-Kent State game or anything regarding college football, come into my YouTube live at Behind the Wall with Landon Tangwall. We will be back in just 2 minutes.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
2 of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen Baker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen Baker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen Baker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
Get up and get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox.
Welcome back into the Behind the Wall post-game show sponsored by Campus Steaks. Check them out downtown State College on Pew Street. We have a signing tomorrow there with Riley Thompson, the Aussie punter. We'll be down there signing from 10 to 11 a.m. So if you're still around tomorrow, go check that out. He'll be signing his signature cup. We have teamed up with Campus Steaks to come out with a player signature cup. Every home game was Dom DeLuca against Bowling Green, Riley Thompson this week, Bo Prabula coming up next week. So be on the lookout for that to get your cup signed. Let's talk a couple questions before we wrap up here. We got a little bit more, about 5 minutes left. Put yourself in the shoes of Kent State coach. How do you keep this team together? Well, Kent State, they had a loss to St. Francis University in PA, which it was their first ever FBS win for St. Francis. They've been a program for about 100 years now, and Kent State was their first ever team. So those guys are lost in the locker room. You might as well say sayonara to them. They do not care. They're probably not going to class. It's the type of conversation where it's in the locker room. I'll take you into the locker room of Kent State, and it is tomorrow, let's say Monday, and there's class. They say, hey, bro, you going to class? And they go, no, I'm not going to class. I'm done with this season. I don't really care anymore. That is essentially what's going on when you are starting to lose this bad, just to give you a little bit of an inside peek on that. Let's talk about a couple things. One thing, Bo Pabula's involvement early on, I am curious to get the fans' opinion on this. Do you feel like it disrupts the offense a little bit when you're taking Drew Aller out of the equation? Let's say it's a 2nd and 6. And you put Bo Pabula in, and then you get behind the sticks, and now it's 3rd and 7. Something happens. We saw the interception where we brought in Bo Pabula. We tried to fake a jet sweep, and then we threw a tight end screen off of that. Bo Pabula floated a little bit. The Kent State defense picked it off. So, I am very curious from the fans' perspective, how do you see Bo Pabula fitting into this offense? I definitely think that is a question for Andy Kotelnicki heading into these bigger Big Ten games. This is the last out-of-conference game for Penn State. How do you use Bo Pabula moving forward? Because he is someone that is dynamic and definitely provides a big spark to this offense, but there's also moments where he comes in and it can kind of stall a drive for a little bit. So there is kind of that happy medium you have to find if you're James Franklin, if you're Andy Kotelnicki, of do I want to interject him in a critical game, Illinois, USC, whatever it is, in those moments. I don't think that was a bad throw from Bio, just a good defensive play. Yeah, I don't disagree. Kent State made a couple plays. That wasn't at all a team I thought was going to come in and make any plays, and they really didn't do anything besides that the rest of the day. And just to give you a couple stats going down, Drew Aller, 17 for 21, 309 through the air, 3 touchdowns. Nick Singleton, 81 yards, and had a really, really good day on the ground, continuing to dominate, 309 yards. My man, Scott, thank you very much if you're watching. Appreciate that. And we got 10 wide receivers involved. I mean, that was exciting. 10 receivers involved. And that's exciting for a number of reasons where, you got 3 tight ends with receptions in this game. And that's something that Penn State has done for a while. Last year, they had a 3 tight end set about 6% of the time. So, it doesn't sound like a lot, but they are using 3 tight ends. And when you lose Andrew Rappleyea to injury, there starts to be a little bit of a question mark. Is a freshman wide receiver going to be able to handle what you need him to handle? It's a lot of freshmen do not come into college football, especially Big Ten play, ready to actually play. So I am definitely curious to see how Luke Reynolds is going to continue to progress against better teams and when he has to block an Ohio State defensive end or a USC defensive end instead of a Kent State defensive end. But overall, this day has me walking away definitely optimistic about this Penn State team as a whole. Just giving you guys a couple updates around college football. University of Buffalo took down Northern Illinois University, and they were ranked number 23. NIU was. Buffalo took them down in the MAC. Obviously, Michigan took down USC at home. Miami is in a battle with UCF right now. Miami's ranked number 8. Cam Ward, their quarterback, is leading a charge right now. In a second here, I will be done in about 2 minutes, and you guys will get action. Tennessee at Oklahoma, which is 6 at number 15, which I think will be a really good game down in the SEC. So excited to get you guys over to that one. To answer your question, I feel like Bo Pabula is predictable. I think there's ways where Andy Kotelnicki can continue to make it so he's not predictable. But that goes into that Tuesday practice. When you go in, you have Monday off, you come in Tuesday, and the coaches come in with new plays. And they say, hey, get these plays ready. It can be, 2 plays, but it might also be 8 plays. And you have to be ready to run those plays because they scout up the defense or the offense you're going against that week, and they say, hey, I think these plays are going to be able to put us in the best position to defeat this offense or defense. So you have to be able to adapt, and hopefully they come with some new, creative, exciting plays for Bo Prabula. I hope PSU starts out faster next week. Aristotle says starting slow seems to be a thing lately. Yeah, I think it's been something that kind of continues to happen for a while. And I don't think, I was on the teams. I feel like we were always prepared heading into whether it was Bowling Green, whether it was Kent State or Ohio State. I always felt like we were prepared, but sometimes it just takes a little bit to get going. And I think you saw that from this Penn State offense today. It felt like when you were watching the first half, okay, I don't really know if this is an elite offense. I think that's what some people were asking. And you step away and it's like, okay, you look at it 56-0, you put up, 700 yards of offense. I'll have to check. That might actually be a Penn State record. I'll have to check on that. But overall, I like what I saw from Penn State today. I don't think you can learn a lot because this is, like I said, the worst team, I think, in the FBS college football with Kent State. But getting the wide receivers involved, you saw a lot from Dejon Lane. He played a ton. 10 different receivers caught a ball today. Penn State went over 300 yards rushing. Only the second time in the Singleton Allen era have they went over 300 yards. I did predict that on my Twitter this morning, at Landon Tengwall on Twitter. Follow me. I put out a bold prediction that Penn State would rush for 300 yards. They rushed for 309. So I like to see it. Drew Aller had 309 yards passing as well. So good stuff from this Penn State team. I am excited to see them Illinois next week. Be on the lookout on my YouTube channel, on my Twitter, at Landon Tengwall, for updates heading into Illinois, pregame show, all that good stuff. A little bit of a post-game breakdown coming from this game, film breakdown, all that good stuff, everything you need. Check it out on my social medias, at Landon Tengwall, and then on YouTube, at Behind the Wall with Landon Tengwall. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Stop by to Campus Steaks tomorrow morning if you're still in town, 10 to 11 a.m. Riley Thompson is signing his signature cups. Appreciate you guys listening. Have a good night. You are now headed to Tennessee, number 6 at 15, Oklahoma, down in the SEC. You guys enjoy that one. Have a great night.